So what is NeCTR? When previewing in Beekeeper, it is possible to test the responses of third-party services to each business feature without triggering direct contact with them. NeCTR can pre-populate fields with existing data and replace direct interaction with third parties by mimicking their responses. This is how an end-to-end test of application functionality can be conducted. With NeCTR, we can record, proxy, and playback our recordings of our Beekeeper environments. To begin testing a third-party service, make sure you are on the Environments tab and then select an environment. The first thing we need to do is check if an agent already exists on this environment or the environment that you've selected. Otherwise, we cannot record, proxy, or playback our services. First thing we need to do is check if an agent exists. So what is an agent? Agents are assigned to specific parts of the platform that you want to track. These agents will have interceptors, and interceptors allow NeCTR to intercept requests and responses on services with different modes: proxying, recording, and playback, which basically plays back our recordings. If there are no agents, adding one is very easy, and we can also add a new environment from the environment's home screen by clicking on the Add Environment button. Since there should be a few here already, as quite a few environments have been added to the list, select the preview -its -r4-0-1-1234, which basically translates to the ITS, which is the Integrated Testing Services team, release 4.0.1 environment. Once you've done that, you should be presented with the status of the environment and the services assigned to it. On the right hand side, click on the pencil icon, then select the interceptors tag. Once you've done that, click on the Add Interceptor button, and then we can see a few details that we do need to add. Here, we can specify the name of the interceptor, the type of the interceptor, where you can choose between the protocols of HTTP and HTTPS, the port, which is the default being 8080, the destination, which is basically the actual endpoint. So for example, it will be https://openweathermap.org/API. The mode, which is very important, so I'll explain these three. So proxy, which basically means go to the destination that we've entered and let the process run as normal, as in let the request, then the response run as normal. Record, which means go to the destination, then record the request and responses. And playback, which basically means choose a recording and then play back the recording. And also, it doesn't actually go to the destination, but instead it goes to NeCTR, then returns a response based on the recording that we have selected. Okay, so now that we've seen how an agent works with interceptors, next step will be uploading a Shadow Connect file that talks to the endpoints of our destination that we want. And just to recap, Shadow Connect is a framework which enables the configuration and use of a set of reusable application integration patterns. Okay, so once the Shadow Connect file is uploaded, the services will now be integrated. So we need to test it through Beekeeper. If it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, then there's an error inside your Shadow Connect file. Speak to the right person for them to get that solved for you. Now that you know that it works, or if it does work, we can now record. So return to the environment inside NeCTR, select the Interceptors tab, and then select Start a New Recording. Again, we do need to return back to Beekeeper, reset our journey, go through the journey, and then once all service calls are complete, return back to NeCTR, navigate to the Recordings tab, and now we should see our new recording. Okay, so find the newest ID. You can tell by the number. For example, it will be 0001 as a recording ID. It will have a name. Default will be a third-party name. And then it will also show you how many services were available throughout the calls that you recorded. If you do have multiple services, the amount of interceptors will increase too. If you don't see a recording, check to see if the interceptor property or option is set to record instead of proxy or playback, and then retoggle the new recording option. So now that we have a recording, we can use the playback function. Select the environment from the list from the directory on the left hand side of NeCTR. Once you click on the environment, select the agent, then back to the interceptor. Change the mode from recording to playback or record to playback. Enter the recording ID, and again, you should receive this ID from the list of recordings that we or you have recently created. And then once you enter the recording ID, click on save. Okay, so now that we've added or edited our interceptor from record to playback, return back to Beekeeper and reset the journey again. So now when going through the journey, we want to change the values that we've entered in a field. So for example, in our lookup weather step, instead of week weather feature, we entered London previously to proxy and record. Now what we need to do is change the value from London to New Jersey, for example. So once we've done that, what we do expect, like before, is expect the service call to go to NeCTR, but this time, rather than going to the endpoint presented in our service and getting the actual response, it will play back our recording, which is relevant to the recording ID that you've entered inside the interceptor. So we don't expect to see New York's weather. We do expect to see the original response, London's weather, as in this response was recorded earlier. If we do see New York's weather as a response, then we do need to re-preview in Beekeeper or switch between the design and the preview tab in App Builder to retest and then re-preview. And we can also check if it's changed by looking at the state and the network tabs during the preview session. So now if it's all working, that's great. The first change is